Alrighty, Haas, welcome back to another video. And now that you guys know how to handle simple touch events like a tap, what I want to do is I want to show you guys how to handle gestures. Now, a gesture is a special type of touch event. Now, there are a bunch of different types, but the ones I'm going to be showing you guys how to handle in this tutorial are something like scrolling. So, for example, when the user has their finger on the screen and they tap down and then they drag it up and let go. So that's a scroll. Maybe you're reading, I don't know, some article online. Another thing is a fling. And a fling is kind of like a scroll, but you put your finger down and you just fling it up and then you release your finger at the same time. And this is actually a common gesture whenever you have like a reading app and you have a bunch of pages. So flinging can be like turning a page. And there's some other ones as well. And one of the special ones actually is a double tap, and that needs its new interface or an entirely different interface, but I'm going to be showing you guys all of them. It's going to be real simple. So the first thing I did is I created a brand new project. I named it Swiper Diaper because I wanted to include the word swiper in it, because I'm going to be showing you guys the swipe. And I don't know, the diaper just kind of popped into my head, so here we are looking at a blank project with one activity, Swiper Diaper. So go ahead and delete this text view, boom, roasted, and drag out a large text right here. And I'm just going to give this a new ID of, what can I name UID? So many options. How about Bucky's massage? Bucky's message. There we go. Alright, so now we have this text right here that has the idea of Bucky's message, and just because it's annoying me, I'm just gonna name this like Bucky's text. Alright, so essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna be calling a bunch of different gestures, and I'm gonna be showing you guys how to implement them. And for example, whenever we scroll, then I'll just change this text to scroll. And whenever we fling, I'll just change this text to fling. So again, this is the only interface we need, and the text is going to change depending on what gesture we do. Pretty boring app, but it's really useful for just demonstrating this example. So that's actually the only thing that we need to do for this pretty boring design. So now let's hop over to the Java class. Let me get myself all situated. And the first thing I want to do is this. We need to import a bunch of stuff, and after I import it, I'll explain why we are importing everything. So the first thing is import, and well, since we need a reference to that text view, we can just go ahead and import that now, and that's Android widget.text view, and I have a burp coming in like 10 seconds. Come on, just get out. Just get out, burp. Alright, staying down in there. Okay, now we need to import Android view and motion event. Now two other things. Import Android.view.gesture detector. That is a pretty cool name. Alright. Now import Android.support.v4. Oh, I thought it was going to film the entire thing for me. v4.view. Oh, it might. Oh, MG, that was pretty sweet. Wow. I wish there was a program where you could just type tab, tab, tab. Next thing you know, you had like a social networking app. But actually, that would be pretty dumb. So, I don't know. I'm just entertaining myself over here. Alright, so we imported all the crap we need. So why did we import all of that? Well, this is how you detect gestures. What you're going to need to do is you're going to need to implement a couple interfaces. Now, these interfaces have methods inside them that are pretty much responsible for detecting gestures. Now, you can implement them in a bunch of different ways, but we're just going to use the same class right here. So what we're going to do is implements, and the first one is gesture detector, dot on gesture listener. And I'm running out of space, so I'm just going to add a comma. And the other one we want is gesture detector on double tap listener. So again, these are two different interfaces that we're going to implement. And again, this one right here, this on gesture listener, this is for your common gestures like flinging and scrolling and a couple other ones as well. This on double tap listener, of course, you guys probably could have guessed, this is for listening for double taps. So that's what we're going to be doing right there. Now the first thing that I actually want to do is, before we start using these methods that we just implemented, I'm actually going to go above right here and I'm going to get a reference to this while I remember it. So since we're going to be using it in a bunch of different methods, that's why I just don't want to stick this variable in one of them, since I want to use it throughout a bunch of them. So private text view, and I'll just call this Bucky's message. That is what I called it, isn't it? Yep. Alright, now another thing that I probably should do right here is private gesture detector compat right there, and G gesture detector. Pretty good name. And again, you guys know that this variable is just going to be a reference for here, obviously, and this little gesture detector, again, that's the object from the class that pretty much is going to detect gestures, and I'll show you guys later on how to use that. But for now, since we implemented both of these interfaces, what we need to do is we actually need to use those methods. So actually, I'm going to stick those right after the onCreate, just because, I don't know, it just feels right. And I'm going to hit Alt Insert. Now I'm going to hit Implement Methods. So this is pretty much saying, okay, you implemented this interface on double tap listener, so these are the methods from there you have to implement or use, essentially. And on gesture listener, these are the methods that you're using from there. So as you can see, on scroll, on down, which pretty much means your fingers down, on fling, which pretty much means you like fling up like you're scrolling through something. So I'm just going to hit OK, and what's going to happen is it's going to automatically insert all of those for us. So again, that's our promise whenever we're implementing that we're going to use all of those methods, and now we fulfilled our promise, but it's still kind of boring because we didn't do anything with them yet. So the first thing I'm actually going to do is go up to my onCreate method and give myself a little bit of room. Now you need to add 3 lines of code to the onCreate method. The first one is, you guys probably could have guessed, that Bucky's message. You actually need to take care of it right here. So you guys remember how to do this. Don't really need to talk you guys through it. Find view by ID r.id.Bucky's message. So now we got a reference to the message. Now we can actually tweak it whenever we have a gesture. Now, another thing I want to do is pretty much just housekeeping stuff, but this gesture detector, remember that was the object. I'm going to set this equal to new gesture detector compat, and then I pass in this. So again, what this is an object from this class which pretty much allows us to detect gestures. Simple enough. So the last thing I want to do is set gesture detector, and I'm going to call a method on it called set double tap listener, or set on double tap listener. Now I'm going to pass in this, and what this is going to do is going to allow us to detect double taps as well. So it's kind of annoying that they probably have a good reason behind this, but they separated the basic gestures from the double tap ones. Why they did that, I'm not sure, but they did it, so that's why we have kind of redundant code from time to time. So now all I need to do is this, and this is actually really easy. So on each of those methods that we are implementing, I'm just going to call a quick little, just do this and copy and paste it a bunch of times, I guess. Alright, on single, actually I'm going to do this even lazier. Alright, so essentially what I'm going to do is on each gesture that we're overriding, I'm going to set a little message to change the text on the screen to whatever gesture just occurred. So just like this. And instead of going through all of these, actually you guys can do that. I'm going to pause my video because it's probably going to take like a minute or so, and you guys don't need to see me do the same exact thing like 10 different times. So 1 second. Alright guys, so what I did is I added the functionality to change the text on the screen every time a gesture occurs. Now another thing I want to mention, or by the way, I also added 2 little comments to the source code so you guys can tell when the gestures are beginning and when they're ending, and which is pretty much the default code that was there before. So if you guys are copying the source code from the forum and you see that, that's what they are. So once you have all of your messages set, we need to do a couple more things. The first thing is, you see how all of these return false by default? Well, we actually want to return true on all of those. And remember, the reasoning behind that is because return true essentially means that, okay, whenever this override method occurs, return true says the event was handled. The touch event was handled. If you don't have this return true, then what's going to happen is, for example, whenever you scroll, it's going to say on scroll on the screen, the text is indeed going to change, but the event, that touch event, isn't going to be consumed. In other words, it's going to say, okay, well, you still got to take care of this touch event. Whenever we return true, it says, okay, well, actually that's all we wanted to do. Touch event taken care of. So it doesn't pass it along for something else to handle it.